All right, guys. So graduation season is upon us, and with graduation season, you get some controversies surrounding graduation speeches. Okay, and specifically, graduation speeches that may have a little spice of religion or a student talking about their faith. Okay, now in public school, this is a gray area because of the establishment clause. Basically says that the state, aka the government, may not make any new laws that respect the establishment of an official religion. It may not basically create official religion or show favoritism towards one religion over another, or really even show favoritism towards being religious over being non-religious. Okay, basically it's there to try to make the federal government at least appear to be neutral when it comes to religion. That means that, teachers and administrators and public school, employees can't openly endorse any religion or, show any type of favoritism towards any type of religion or faith or anything like that. However, again, like I said, this becomes more of a gray area when it comes to students, especially when it comes to speeches they're giving during school-wide ceremonies. And in Michigan, a valedictorian speech was censored and criticized as very Christianized in a complaint. So let's read here more about this speech, in which this student is trying to basically incorporate her faith into her speech, and that is apparently controversial. So let's read here. A high school valedictorian speech is allegedly being censored and facing pushback for being very Christianized, according to a letter sent Tuesday. Savannah Lefler, a senior at John Glenn High School in Michigan, recently submitted a draft for an honors night speech, which contained language criticizing other philosophies and asserting, quote, the purpose of life is to live a life devoted to Christ. The school's principal responded in part by suggesting Lafler's speech wasn't inclusive enough of other faiths. Quote, we have a diverse student body and staff. It's one of those things I love about the John Glennon community, said Principal Michael Weger at the end of last month. Quote, that diversity goes beyond race and ethnicity. It certainly would include religious beliefs as well. We have students and staff who identify as Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, Sikh, Jehovah's Witnesses, atheists, etc. We must be inclusive and respectful of their beliefs as well, Weger said. With this said, we need to see a revision that sticks to a non-secular approach. I am not opposed to thanking God for the great honor bestowed upon you, but we cannot take the approach that is currently laid out in the speech. All right, so my opinion thus far. So basically, this student is writing her graduation speech. And doing a graduation speech, okay, I guess, when you become valedictorian, you work hard. Okay, and during your speech, you're going to talk about the things that motivate you and that help you with your academic work. Obviously, for some people, faith can be a big part of that journey. And a lot of students want to share their journey and how their faith helped them get to where they are. We see this all the time when it comes to speeches that aren't necessarily in the space of public schools. We see them at award ceremonies. We see them doing sports ceremonies. And I get it. This is not the government. These are private institutions. Don't get me wrong. I 100% get that. But in my opinion, she is a private citizen. She really is. And as a private citizen, she's not a government employee, which leads me to believe that she should have the right to say this, and that this school saying that she can't say this is basically violating her First Amendment rights. Because I don't think that anything that she's saying, students are endorsing that as an official message from the school. And if that's the case, or you may believe that, then why isn't that the school just give a disclaimer to say anything that's said here by students, that's not an endorsement from us. They wrote that speech. That's for them. That's not for us. Okay. And again, in my opinion, I don't think she's required to be inclusive of other people's religions when she's giving her own speech as a private citizen. Now, obviously, she shouldn't go out of her way to offend other people's religions or to talk down on them. Obviously, she shouldn't be doing that. But I don't think she should necessarily have to water down her speech in terms of the impact of her own religion in her life just to accommodate others. Because again, in Christianity, obviously, faith in Jesus Christ, that plays a huge role. Okay. And leaving him out and just saying God, that's kind of like watering down exactly how religion has impacted your life and success. Okay. So let's read a little bit more here. The letter to the principal sent by First Liberty on Tuesday alleges that Lefler asked for additional clarification during a phone call. Quote, you stated that the second part of speech, which references Plato, Darwin, and other religions, was acceptable because it discusses different philosophies. First Liberty attorneys told Weger in the letter. Quote, the problem you explained was the next portion of the speech in which Ms. Lefler explains her personal belief that the purpose of life is to live a life devoted to Christ. You explained that this portion was very Christianized and needed to be changed in order to not offend people with other viewpoints. Again, exactly what I was just saying. So they're okay with her mentioning other viewpoints as long as it's not too Christianized. As long as you don't throw Jesus in there, don't talk about him. But you can talk about all these other people, right? You can talk about Darwin, you can talk about Plato, you can talk about all the atheists, you can talk about everybody else. Okay, I guarantee you if she had mentioned, Buddha or Muhammad or, some other major figure, I guarantee you that nobody would ask any questions. It would have been fine. But because she mentioned Jesus, okay, apparently there's an issue here. You can't give a speech about how your faith has impacted your work and not talk about one of the main figures in that religion. That's just how it goes, right? So read a little bit more here. Weger did not respond to Fox News' request for comment in a lengthy statement last week. Wayne Westland Community Schools didn't address accusations of censorship. Instead, it offered a more general description of the ceremony. Traditionally, student speakers are selected as a part of festivities and celebration. Every student that has the honor of speaking at this ceremony has demonstrated deep commitment to their educational success, and we celebrate their accomplishments with them. When students are thrust onto the stage of an honor celebration, we recognize that we have an academic responsibility to walk with them in that process. Public speaking at an event of this magnitude is similar to playing a championship game. It is a difficult challenge. When students play a sport, coaches are there to walk with them to help them engage and succeed at the highest level. When students speak at these events, our school leadership is there to walk alongside and coach them to success. Tuesday's letter was a second within a week in which First Liberty demanded a Michigan high school refrain from censoring religious speech. Last week, Hilldale High School reversed its decision to censor a valedictorian speech that mentioned Jesus Christ. So again, last week, apparently another high school in Michigan tried to censor a speech that mentioned Jesus, and they reversed course on that because First Liberty, I guess this law firm, has been defending this passionately. In both instances, First Liberty argued that the school mistakenly interpreted student speeches as communicating on behalf of the school. U.S. Department of Education guidance, as the firm notes, says that graduation speeches are considered private and constitutionally protected. I tend to agree with that interpretation. In his email, Wagner had told Lefler, I appreciate your desire to speak with from your heart and share your beliefs and philosophies with others. Unfortunately, we are a public educational institution and must abide by the First Amendment of the Constitution. Though through past Supreme Court cases, rulings have stated that government institutions, including public schools, cannot favor one religion over another. This would include honor speeches since it is an official communication from the school. I think that's his own interpretation of it. Like I said, guys, this is kind of like muddy waters legally, right? So I don't think it's that cut and dry, at least from the research that I've done on this subject, that student speeches would be an official form of communication of the school. Therefore, it falls under the establishment clause. I'm not necessarily sure if I buy that argument, that it's that cut and dry, at least the way he's presenting it. According to First Liberty's letter, Wagner set up a time to meet with the school's legal advisors on June 2nd, the same day as Lefler's speech. Too often, we have seen well-meaning school officials thinking they're complying with the establishment clause, mistakenly go too far and censor the private speech of students, violating the students' rights under the free speech clause, said First Liberty General Counsel Mike Berry and Senior Counsel Stephanie Tubb. We request that you allow Ms. Lefler to express her private religious beliefs in her honors night speech. A representative for Wayne Westland Community Schools did not immediately respond to Fox News inquiry about First Liberty's letter. All right, guys. So, yeah, I think this is messed up. I think that the student should definitely be allowed to, talk about, how her religion has affected her life and her ability to make good grades, right? If she feel like that was a big contributor, right? Like, she was valedictorian, she earned the right to do that. Okay, and I don't think it necessarily has to mean that it's being endorsed by the school. I think that the school can easily solve this just by giving a disclaimer. And that way, any student who discusses their religion or whatever, right, whether they're Muslim, whether they're, Jewish, whether they're, Hindu, whatever it is, they should be able to talk about their religion in their own private speech if they feel like it is a major factor for their academic success. Again, to me, I don't see how this really gets in the way of the establishment clause. I just don't. I mean, these students are not government employees. Again, just to be fair here, I do believe in separation of church and state. And I do think that it is important that our government is careful not to favor one religion over another. For example, a lot of people, and some of you guys may be mad at me for saying this, but again, this is me being consistent here on this issue. A lot of people get mad because people are allowed to swear on whatever they want to swear on when they are being sworn into certain positions in federal office. Okay, some people complain about Muslims swearing in on their Qurans or people swearing in on things that are not the Bible. Okay, listen. They have the right to do that, right? Just like Christians have the right to swear in on the Bible if they want to swear on the Bible, okay? I mean, that would technically be the correct way for the government to do that exercise, right? Letting people who are religious choose to swear on whatever they want to swear on, right? Their religious book, and letting people who are not religious, if they don't want to swear on any religious book or anything at all, then hey, they can do that as well, okay? Like, that respects everybody's right to practice a religion without necessarily having the government endorse one over the other. And I say this, guys, because, again, the pendulum always swings the other way. Once the government starts endorsing a religion or favoring one or the other, all it takes is that in the future, if another religion happens to become the most popular religion, then the government could start favoring that religion over other minority religions that in the past everybody agreed that, hey, our government should, overtly favor this religion. Okay, that stuff is important, man. Okay, so I feel like I'm pretty consistent when it comes to the freedom of religion thing. But at the same time, I do think that in this situation, she's a private citizen, and I think her free speech clause is what applies here. She's not a government employee. She's just giving a speech at an honor ceremony, and this could easily be solved with just a disclaimer from the school saying that, hey, we don't endorse anything that she says. This is her speech, right? And to me, that would be fair. That would be a quick fix and an easy way to solve this. And again, in the future, if another student, if they're, Muslim or Jewish or Hindu or whatever religion they want to be, hey, if they feel that their religion had a lot to do with their academic success, they can talk about it in their speech too. Okay? School just gives a disclaimer. Say, hey, we don't endorse it. That's just them talking. Problem solved, right? The school is not endorsing a message, and the student keeps their right to free speech. If only things in this life could be so simple, but unfortunately they're not. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.